Welcome to Xhibition, an Xbox podcast, episode number 19. Of course, for those that are brand new to the show, this is a weekly gaming news podcast focused entirely on the world of Xbox, covering the biggest industry news, having some good conversations along the way. And of course, we are getting into a very exciting season right now because we are getting into those fall releases. This week we had Origami 2 dropping on Game Pass. Additionally, I've been playing one over the past few days called The Artful Escape that came out a few weeks prior. Definitely one that is worth your time if you do want to check it out. But on top of that, going forward, we have Battlefield 2042 now coming in November. Of course, it did get about a 1 month delay or so. But on top of that, you've got your big players like Call of Duty, like Halo Infinite, like Forza Horizon 5, and so many more that are dropping in the season ahead. It's just a really good time to be a player. Now, on top of that, some changes are coming to Halo the Master Chief Collection. We will discuss that on today's show. As per usual, I'll give you guys the latest updates on Game Pass releases, including a specific focus on some new touch control games that I think you should absolutely try. Additionally, the Windows 10 app on PCs is getting a pretty significant upgrade for those that are into cloud gaming, and a new accessory is on the way that could be the perfect solution for Xbox Series S. It could even push me to buy one, depending on what my housing situation looks like in the years ahead. Obviously, as a one-bedroom apartment dweller right now, don't really need more than one Xbox, but let me tell you, this could actually push me over the edge. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Now let's go ahead and start off with what I would consider to be the biggest piece of news of the week, and that is this NVIDIA GeForce Now data leak. Basically, somebody made a huge mistake, and they posted a lot of information on games that could potentially be coming to GeForce Now in the months and even years ahead. We're talking about stuff like Gears 6. We're talking about stuff like these specially codenamed Project Indus and Project Cobalt. But on top of that, from the other side of the fence, you also have stuff like God of War 2018 being ported to PC. That's a pretty big leak. It is one that would make sense considering the success of Days Gone, Death Stranding, Horizon Zero Dawn, and games like them, but it's really neat to see them out in the wild. So that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Project Indus and Project Cobalt. These are games that are reported on by Jez Corden over at Windows Central, who combines his insider information with the leak that was shown this week. So Jez writes in regards to Project Indus from Oxide Games, quote, "I first heard about Indus back in spring 2021, although was only able to confirm that the project is definitely going ahead thanks to the GeForce leak. Project Indus is a 4X strategy game being developed by Oxide Games, known for its work on real-time strategy title Ashes of the Singularity. Although Indus's unique hook remains to be seen, the gameplay sounds very similar to what you experience in Civilization," and he goes on to say that it is indeed targeting the Microsoft Store for PC in addition to Xbox and Steam. On top of that, you have the game that I would consider to be much more appealing, Project Cobalt, coming from inXile Entertainment. As teased by inXile Entertainment itself on Twitter, Jez writes, "The Wasteland Studio is working on a new FPS RPG, although details remain shrouded in mystery. What we do know is that it's codenamed Cobalt and believed to have a steampunk style inspired by Industrial Revolution tech. Expect steam engines, Zeppelins, retro-futuristic robots, dark Victorian-era streets, and more." And of course, this key art here was posted by one of the team members on ArtStation. So it looks like this could potentially be something that we see maybe inspiring more of the work in the months ahead. Now, on top of that, there are also a couple of mentions of Redfall, Starfield, Project Dragoon, or I should say Project Dragon. Thinking about Legend of Dragoon right now. I was watching some gameplay earlier. But overwhelmingly, really exciting stuff here, and it sucks to have these kind of leaks hit the waves, but I will say, and again, this is coming from somebody who talks about gaming industry news in his spare time, so this could be taken with a grain of salt. I think that in the right light, with the right spin, these very vague descriptions of games, these very vague confirmations of existence, these can be very beneficial to a game's overall marketing strategy. Now, there is also the risk of these games being blown out of proportion. You could find yourself in a situation where your game is getting a bit too big for its britches, and it could pull a Cyberpunk 2077 situation where a game could get built up so heavily that it was never meant to completely fulfill fans' expectations. But assuming that these projects are going well, it could in fact be a really good marketing boon just to have the confirmation of existence and to kind of get people talking about the Xbox brand. Now, whoever over at NVIDIA accidentally posted this information, thank you, and also I'm sorry. Not a great look, but hey, it happens sometimes, is what it is. Let's move on and talk about the MCC development update for September of 2021. Now, of course, there are timestamps down below if you do want to skip through this. I understand that not everyone is a Halo fan, but Halo is a core fundamental part of the world of Xbox, and so I would be remiss not to talk about what I would consider to be a very bold move to go all in on Halo Infinite, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. Let's start with the good news. They write, quote, "Later this fall, we are excited to deliver our 8th season of free updates for Halo the Master Chief Collection, including more unique customization content, quality of life updates, fixes, and brand new features. If you'd told us at the start of this journey years ago that we'd be here talking about our 8th seasonal update, I'm not sure any of us would have believed it. The support and partnership across the community for MCC flighting and feedback has been invaluable as we have worked together to improve, evolve, and expand the collection. Thank you." And of course, they go on to talk more about some of the features that are coming, etc., etc. But further down, you see the bad news. With Halo Infinite's release now locked for December 8th, it's safe to say the remainder of the year is going to be a wild one here at the studio. While the MCC and Halo Infinite teams are generally separate entities, we do have overlap when it comes to shared areas like services, support, community, and more. To that end, it's important to us that we position MCC's 8th season for success, but also help alleviate any conflicts that could take away from the studio's focus on Halo Infinite's launch. To that end, Season 8's release later this fall will be our last official MCC update for this calendar year. Suffice it to say that we are going to finish the year on a high note with a jam-packed season that's actually swelled in some regards, as pieces once earmarked for later this year, were pulled in to clear the landing zone for Halo Infinite. As we think about the future, we have had a lot of conversations around how to best support MCC once Halo Infinite's free-to-play multiplayer is up and running. We have agreed on 2 key points. 1, we have more MCC work to do and support will continue. And 2, as a studio, it's not ideal to run and continue shipping seasonal updates for 2 different multiplayer titles concurrently. So, while we very much have more updates coming, including more content, fixes, and features, the manner in which they are delivered is expected to shift. Starting next year, we are targeting pivoting away from our current seasonal model and cadence to instead focus on smaller MCC updates that can land when they're ready based on development status and studio roadmap alignment. These updates will continue to be free and will include the unreleased features and content from this year, as well as a continued effort to improve stability and tackle legacy fixes where possible. We still have a lot of goodness to deliver in 2022, end quote. Now, if you want to read more about the future of MCC modding and more tools that are coming our way, you can. On top of that, they talk about passing the torch here. We are going to be getting more insider information from senior producer Matt Hull. If you do want to see what he has to say in the months ahead leading up to Halo Infinite, just kind of passing the torch as Halo Infinite's development does wind down. So, here you have a tale of 2 Halos, basically. You have Halo Infinite coming out in December, which is, of course, understandably so, going to be the big focus for the team at 343, because this is a game that not only has the reputation of the Halo franchise riding on it, it also has the reputation of Xbox riding on it, with this 20-year celebration taking up so much of the mindshare of players. Halo Infinite needs to be good. It needs to launch in a very, very good state, and so it's understandable that they would reallocate their resources and make sure this game is ready to rock from day one. But you also have the Master Chief Collection, which I would consider to be, to this day, one of the biggest reasons to purchase an Xbox Series X, a Series S, even an Xbox One or a One X. You can't abandon this game, and they aren't abandoning this game. But it seems very conclusional, if that's a word. It seems like this is the end for the Master Chief Collection, especially when you don't have any kind of seasonal updates going forward. Now, of course, no game lasts forever, but Halo the Master Chief Collection is a very special collection of games, and it's a very special multiplayer suite because it combines together 20 years of Halo. And it brings all of these experiences, except for Halo 5, the redheaded stepchild. It combines all of these experiences under one roof, so that no matter how big of a Halo fan you are, you have access to all of those adventures that you went on over the past 2 decades. You have access to these maps, these multiplayer experiences that you would not be able to find and play otherwise today easily. And of course, there is a thriving multiplayer community around the Master Chief Collection. So I'm interested to learn more about what their plans are going forward and what this continued support looks like. And of course, I would also love to hear from you. If you want to leave me a comment down below on YouTube, or if you would like to hit me up on anchor.fm/Xhibition, you can actually send a voice recording into the show and get featured on next week's episode. But I really wish that Master Chief Collection and Halo Infinite will thrive going forward, and they could. But being realistic about the current situation, Halo Infinite, of course, is going to take the focus. But what happens, potentially, if that game doesn't land the way that they want it to? What happens if Halo Infinite isn't as good as people would like it to be? I'm going back to play Halo the Master Chief Collection. Of course, I'll still play Halo Infinite either way, but I'm going back to play more Master Chief Collection. I still want Halo Reach. I still want Halo 3. I love Halo 4. I adore Halo 4. And so I still want those experiences to be supported, to get new content, etc. So we'll see what happens in the future as these games continue to evolve. But to abandon this collection of legacy titles certainly seems to be not what's happening, but the sunsetting of continual support certainly seems to be here. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But Master Chief Collection still getting a very significant Season 8 update to kind of cap off these regular updates and support ahead of Halo Infinite. And I mean, when it comes down to it, what better way to really celebrate the 20th anniversary of Halo than not only a pretty big seasonal update, but on top of that, Halo Infinite coming out in just a number of months. Sounds pretty good. Now let's move on and talk about the new update for the Xbox app on Windows 10 PCs that lets you stream console games from the cloud, or you can even stream your home console. This is a feature that will get utilized, but I think it could have a mileage that varies based on the type of player that you actually are. So first and foremost, talking about the tech itself, this is awesome because any kind of Windows device is immediately an Xbox device now. No matter how you access the cloud streaming service, whether it's through xbox.com/play or whether it's through the app on Windows 10, if you have a machine that's running Windows, you can now experience an entire collection of Xbox games, assuming you are a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. But on top of that, if you aren't a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, but you do have an Xbox console, you can now stream directly into the Xbox app, which is a big benefit for those, especially whenever they're just playing at home. Because whenever you are someone who has company over, potentially, and your company is watching the television in the living room where your Xbox Series X is hooked up, but you are ready to play some Destiny right now, you can dive in, play some Destiny. On top of that, if you would like to play games that are not on the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate library, let's say you want to go back and play Red Dead Redemption, you can go ahead and do that. Anything that's installed on your machine, you have access to. It's literally just streaming that console in the same way that you would stream another device to another, remote access, if you were doing some PC support, that kind of thing. And ultimately, these features are great for quality of life, but I will say I would love to see some mouse and keyboard support. And looking into what they've got right now, I don't see any kind of mouse and keyboard support, and this is something that has kind of plagued the PC version of this experience since the very beginning. I'm not sure how difficult it would be, and I think it could be a little bit harder than a lot of people realize. But if this game is running virtually on an Xbox Series X that is somewhere in a data center millions of miles away, whatever it might be, if this is running on an Xbox Series X, technically a lot of these modern games have keyboard and mouse support. So currently, if you were to boot up the Xbox app on Windows 10 and stream your console or stream some games, you have to have an Xbox controller there with you. That isn't a deal breaker, but it certainly isn't as convenient as something like play with touch controls, which is something that can be done with a lot of games now. We'll talk about that more in a moment. So I would love to see mouse and keyboard support added, or at least in the same way they have a small selection of games that have this play with touch compatibility. It would be nice to see play with mouse and keyboard compatibility as well. That could be in the works in the weeks and months ahead, but certainly excited to, keep tuned in. But these updates continue to improve the overall experience, and the biggest benefit here is that you are now able to play the way that you want to play in a way that fits your schedule. For me, I'm someone who might not always have time to play games whenever I'm in my home. I might not always have time to head into my living room and sit down on the couch and play for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. But I do have 30 minutes here and there. I have some time while I'm waiting on someone to get ready, or I have some time while I'm wrapping up my lunch break, whatever it might be. I can find these small instances throughout the day. And whether I'm on my iPhone through cloud gaming, whether I'm on my Android device through cloud gaming, whether I'm on a Windows device through cloud gaming, whatever it might be, I have the ability to stream these games, and that is incredibly powerful. Now, on top of that, there is also this. Some new Xbox touch control games are coming to the Xbox Game Pass library. Of course, these are already pretty existent in the library. They've been on for between a few months and a few weeks at this point, but some really cool additions here that I did want to discuss. Basically, in short, you have Medium, Raji, Chris Tales, Anno, Last Stop, Halo Spartan Assault, Halo Wars 1 and 2, Blinks the Time Sweeper, Tropico 6, and Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge. Out of all of these, Spartan Assault, first and foremost, is a game that was designed for mobile from the beginning. So, check that one out. I'm going to be wrapping that one up on my mobile device in the week ahead. But on top of that, I would say that out of all of these, Crimson Skies is an arcade plane shooter that is ideal for this kind of situation, and the same could be said for Blinks. But the fact that I can stream decades-old Xbox games on my iPhone, you just can't ever get past that. It just doesn't get old. So that's certainly very cool. I've heard some good stuff about Last Stop as well from a storytelling perspective. I'm just not into it. The game itself doesn't look that good. Visually, whatever you want to say. And of course, the Medium was one of the biggest Xbox console exclusives of the first half of the year. I'd probably rate it, in hindsight, a 7 out of 10, I think is where I'd probably let that one land. But a lot of stuff to play right now. A lot of stuff to play, and if you do have to get on the go, then by all means you certainly can with your Xbox cloud gaming experience, and the list just keeps growing. So stay tuned. Of course, you can follow Xbox Game Pass over on Twitter for the biggest updates, but certainly an account to keep your eye on. To wrap up today's show, a 500GB Xbox Series X and S storage expansion card is reportedly coming soon. This comes from VGC's Chris Scullion. Highly recommend VGC, by the way, fantastic outlet for gaming news. But they write, quote, a new Seagate expansion card for the Xbox Series X and S with a smaller storage capacity is reportedly due to release in the coming months. French website Xbox Squad reports that a source gave it information on a new 500GB version of the expansion card, which is reportedly being sold to suppliers for €125.71 before tax. Xbox Squad suggests this means the retail price would be between €149 and €169. The site also claims that shortly after its report was initially published, it also received a screenshot of an internal listing at French retailer Micromania, which appears to list the 500GB card for €154.99 and a release date of November the 14th. If the report is true, this could provide a slightly more affordable alternative to the Xbox Series X and S owners who want to expand their console storage but don't want to pay $220 for a 1TB card. So, first off, 500 gigs in this world of this device right here, that's not 500 gigs. If you do want to get 500 gigs, you're going to have to go beyond that because some of that is required for allocation purposes, internal schematics, whatever it might be. It's never 1 terabyte on the card that exists today. So with that being considered, how would a 500 gigabyte card impact the storage situation that many next generation console users are already dealing with? Personally, I think this card could be a great solution for those that are Xbox Series S owners, because one of the biggest issues financially when it comes to storage solutions for the Xbox Series S is that if you want the ultra-fast SSD responsiveness of the Series S, one of the biggest selling points of it, you have to have either internal storage and internally installed games, or you have to have one of these expansion cards. And so, if you go buy a $300 Xbox Series S and then you get a $250, $220, $220 right now, last time I checked. So you get a $220 expansion card. You've already spent $520. You might as well have just went out and bought an Xbox Series X at that rate. So the cost savings that is afforded by having a 500 gigabyte option gives those users of the Xbox Series S the opportunity to upgrade to 1 terabyte of storage, which gives you a little bit more leniency in terms of what you have to install, what you can install, and it really gives you the ability to keep more games on your piece of hardware. That's a bigger issue when it comes to next-gen games that continue to get bigger and bigger with high-resolution textures. And I know that a lot of games have optimized the amount of space they take up. Fortnite is one that I know worked some storage wonders behind the scenes and really did some amazing stuff. But these Call of Duties, these Battlefields, they're still clocking in at hundreds of gigs after DLC has been shared and after new maps have been added. And so you have to almost believe that a lot of players are going to have to pick up some kind of additional storage device, and it would be nice to see a 500 gigabyte option on the way. So we will keep track of this story in the weeks and months ahead. I do think that a November the 14th release could be proper, could be a good move, just because there are so many games coming out that if the holiday season is impending, then a lot of parents might go ahead and throw one in the cart as they're picking up a Series S or an X for the Christmas tree or other holiday decor this holiday season. So we'll keep track of this story in the weeks ahead, but seems like it could be on the way. That wraps up today's episode of Xhibition, an Xbox podcast. If you like the show and you like what you see or what you hear, hit that subscribe button on your podcast feed of choice or on youtube.com/jampacksam. But before we wrap up today's show, I did want to say one last note. The Artful Escape is wonderful, and I normally don't do this and call out specific games that I've been playing recently, but The Artful Escape is taking me by surprise. It's very well acted, it's got great music in it, the visuals are gorgeous, I love the style, it oozes style. So check it out if you are a Game Pass subscriber, absolutely recommend diving in and giving it a shot. And then on top of that, if you are a Call of Duty fan, you can check out this year's game, Call of Duty Vanguard, until September the 22nd with the open beta that is running now. I have not played it yet, but I'll tell you right now, very hesitant about this year's game, not only because of the ongoing allegations and accusations surrounding Activision Blizzard employees, but on top of that, the game itself just kind of looks like it's a... if this was a football season, this would be a rebuilding year. That's the way that I see Call of Duty Vanguard. But let me know what you think, of course, as always, in the comment section down below. And until next week, keep on playing.